Good evening and welcome to another episode of Business PNG. Port Moresby is at the threshold of unprecedented change taking place. It's been 4 years in the making, and finally this is the year that Port Moresby has been waiting for. Sport as an entity in itself has an important role to play in fostering both economic growth and development and sustainable development for the improvement of livelihoods, two key premises of Vision 2050.
All eyes will be on Port Moresby and Papua New Guinea in July as the nation's capital gears up to play host for the third time at the 15th Pacific Games. 3,000 athletes, 500 team officials and 1,000 technical officials and dignitaries from 21 neighboring Pacific nations will converge upon Port Moresby in an adrenaline-charged sporting exchange of 28 sports. The 2015 Pacific Games is set to bring change in Papua New Guinea, which will aid the growth of the economy in 2015 and contribute to the development of sports as well. With the upgrading of venues and current sporting facilities in the nation's capital, the government has invested 1.2 billion kina to ensure Papua New Guinea will become the hub of sports in the Pacific. At present, the Games Village at the University of Papua New Guinea and Tauroma Indoor Aquatic Complex has taken shape, while the Sir Hubert Murray Stadium, Sir John Guy Stadium and Bissini Parade are yet to deliver visible results. While there is still uncertainty on the completion of venues, late last year, upon their final visit for 2014, the Pacific Games Council Executive Committee confirmed venues would not be 100% complete but would be in a usable condition. Sports Minister Justin Chichenko, with the funding from the O'Neill Dion government, has taken the upper hand in committing in both public and private partnerships to deliver the best games ever.
But we started off slow with the procurement exercise, with the tendering process, with the technical evaluation of all these contracts. We had to go through the proper legal procedure, and that took about 8 to 9 months in the first year, which didn't allow us to spend the actual budget that was allocated. So that rolled over to the following year. So the money you're seeing is nothing new. It's fully funded by the government. It's just been passed by Parliament of our final budget for the supplementary for this year, as well as the full budget for 2015. So a total of 1.2 billion will be spent on all infrastructure, the Games Organising Committee, the hosting of the Games, and that will include everything that will ensure the Games is a success in 2015, July 4th.
Time and again, Chichenko has assured the public that the venues will be delivered well and truly before the Games commence. He stated that the Games will be the beginning of a sporting revolution in Papua New Guinea.
We designed them from the beginning in such a way that they'll last for the long term for our future generations and for our country's economy to grow with these facilities. Because I don't want to come back in 10 years' time or 5 years' time to do a recondition like we did after the 91 Games. Because everything we're doing now is being fixed up from the 91 Games. We don't want that to happen again. When we have the next Pacific Games here in the future, or any major event in the future, we want these facilities always to be maintained and looked after. That's very, very important. So we will ensure the lasting legacy of all these wonderful facilities that are being built here.
With the government's support in producing the Games, Minister for Planning Charles Abel, in a recent statement, said this is a huge investment that the government is making and the onus lays on them to remain committed and get it over the line for the benefit of the Games and the future of sports. This heavy investment by the government in the Games does not bode well with many. However, as Director for the Institute of National Affairs, Paul Barker, wants the national government to not spend too much on current infrastructure to host the 2015 Pacific Games, but rather to prioritize spending within the agriculture sector to support a struggling economy. Mr. Barker said it was encouraging to see the development of these Games facilities, but it is a one-off event, and if it is not fully utilized or looked after, millions spent by the government will have been seen as a waste.
Government priority has to be sort of focusing on restoring that basic physical infrastructure, maintaining it, and investing in human resources, in health, education, quality health and education. and certainly also in tackling law and order, which is one of the biggest impediments to a lot of business. Overpriced events like, APEC 2018, or paying too much money into sports facilities. There have been other countries that have in the Pacific that have spent a fraction of the amount on Pacific Games, and yet the impact of the expenditure on the Games has actually almost bankrupted those countries. Papua New Guinea has spent, has now marked 1.2 billion and more for the Pacific Games. This is totally disproportional and all in the national capital. I thought we were trying to actually develop opportunities for people around the country, and yet we've drawn in all this money into road infrastructure, and some of the road infrastructure is priority and some of it is less priority.
He adds that little improvement has been done in the coffee and cocoa industry, but more effort and assistance must be given by the government to see the economy truly transform. He is also unyielding with the fact that better planning for projects will avoid unnecessary spending and ensure that services are truly delivered within Papua New Guinea.
Coming up on the show, Eastern Highlands Awute Coffee expands into manufacturing. Stay with us to find out more. Welcome back. A family-operated coffee company in the Eastern Highlands are expanding their operations into manufacturing roasted coffee beans and ground coffee for the PNG market. Awute Coffee is a growing exporter of PNG coffee to countries like Germany. 80% of its core business is coffee exporting. Awute's success story comes against a backdrop of coffee-rich Eastern Highlands province and an industry watched closely by the Coffee Industry Corporation. Business PNG correspondent Bethany Harriman takes us through the simple setup of Awute Coffee and the processes that they use to create their own unique coffee taste.
It's 1 o'clock when we visit Awute Coffee, the family-run coffee company that has a simple setup that begins on their customary land. The family is renowned in the Eastern Highlands coffee industry.
Now the slab area where you are looking big trucks come stop lo here, me rosimul cherry coffee around. Kapsa team lo this box. Now you are looking at kapsa team cherry go down the box now. Okay, now we come up in this wet factory lo wet processing facilities lo Awute Coffee. Na the slab and we plus up processing all cherry coffee lem.
The wet process of Awute Coffee is simple. The steps involve removing the outer part of the wet bean and separating it from foreign solids. About 90% of water is used.
All metal, all something, but you don't inside one them all cherry. And stop back in the box.
James Awute shows us around the 4 pools where wet beans are stored to ferment during the wet bean process.
Bean come down, direct team come down here. We give certain days lo fermentation process. So after 1 night and 1.5 night, washing the rosimol grease lo bean, then or mangi or bake him lo bake.
After the beans ferment, the Awutes dry the beans into parchment that's ready to be exported or roasted into what consumers drink.
Whether I'm ready also when I'm got all boys lo also about him sun dry. Area stop over come walk all over come pick him up or some see one hand or some put him against him leg blow now but squeeze rausimol sell now. All blue name you can look him coffee and cleaned, sound and new.
One of the key areas that the brothers closely watch is the drying stages of the parchment. The quality of the parchment is monitored closely to get the perfect roast. The Awutes have stopped buying parchment or farmers because of poor quality.
Sun process lo time you me parchment finish you mix him come you me sun dry mo se. So you me sun dry sample coffee you me
dry inside the machine, lo dryer, but sampler you may dry in the sun. So sun is providing good quality, then you may dry inside the machine. So.
The Awute's core business is exports. They send about 80% of their coffee to overseas countries. They are amongst the up-and-coming top producers of coffee in the Eastern Highlands.
It's on export only. So what our aim was is to at least be one of the major competitors in Papua New Guinea in exporting coffee alone overseas. Then once we've set a target. Our target is to at least export more coffee to boost the economic for Papua New Guinea.
Well, quite recently, the Awutes have begun manufacturing a product for the local market. But before the market, a simple process of roasting the beans happens in this room.
Dropping candle here, and the same time I'm circulate one time, and the same time I'm sucking all hot air inside the bean here. I'm sucking and cooling down over there for roast bean. Roast bean finish time I'm for cold enough of a nipple out in the slide.
The coffee beans are placed into this machine to roast the beans.
Just slow here, people are making packaging now. People are packing, people are grinding, people are packing.
There are now plans to have some more products introduced into the Awute brand name.
When finish, now buying gold or sealing.
We plan to develop two more products for Awute Coffee. Right now, Awute Coffee, we sell only a Nokondi blender, one product, Nokondi blender, and we're thinking of adding 2 new more brands into our product line. So,
something to do with quality. It's not something to do with only coffee, but you know, you can say that by all narapla, all farming, agriculture, or you talk cocoa.
James Awute is in charge of quality control at the Awute facilities. He says quality is more than just the coffee. It's about giving the best to customers.
Why wasting your money on something which doesn't have quality?
Controls out there, visits out there, advices out there, checks out there, up to the dry factory, to the exporters, and then down to the point of exports.
James' thoughts echoes that of the Coffee Industry Corporation. The Awute Coffee Company has been working closely with the Coffee Industry Corporation headquarters based in Goroka. Sem Menanga heads the Industry, Regulations and Compliance Department that provides inspections that certify licenses for different stages of coffee processing before export. He says that the industry growth depends on the quality of the product.
If the coffee is below the registered contracts, they have to inform the exporter consent that you need to improve it or you need to change the grade you have contracted.
While Awute is on the move, the Eastern Highlands coffee industry has received support from the Eastern Highlands provincial government.
Bring our community coffee block holders and smallholders together so that they can have a cooperative within the LLG or the district cooperative. So
Governor Julie Soso is looking to support local farmers get involved in cooperatives. She describes it as a bottom-up approach.
80% of the Papua New Guinea coffee industry is owned by the people. Awute Coffee gives a snapshot into the influence and benefits of those within the coffee industry. While the quality of export beans has been an ongoing issue, the Coffee Industry Corporation has been working closely to teach local farmers and producers on how to get the best yield. Coffee is a renewable resource. It has been in the past and will continue to be in the future a thriving local commodity in the Papua New Guinean agricultural economy.
And now on to some business news bites. Last week on Business PNG, we featured a story on the current drop in global oil prices. Global oil prices have fallen sharply over the past 7 months, leading to significant revenue shortfalls in many energy exporting nations, while consumers in many importing countries such as ours are likely to have to pay less to drive their cars. Business PNG recently caught up with Treasurer Patrick Pruich to find out his views on the current slump in prices.
If there is a need for us to look at measures to align as a result of dropping commodity prices, we will do that. But in anything, it's a cycle thing where when the oil prices drop, at some stage it will come up. The question is when it will reverse the trend, so we are watching closely.
Chuave MP Wera Mori says the government should focus on the country's renewable sector. Mr. Mori named the SME sector as a launchpad for many Papua New Guineans living through subsistence lifestyles. The Treasury Minister Patrick Pruich has also reaffirmed the national government's plan to support the SME, calling it a policy with value. The announcements were made in Chuave in the Simbu province during the commission of a new rural road last Friday.
Chuave in the Simbu province shares a provincial boundary with Eastern Highlands province. It offers exotic views from the Elimbari range. The island's highway cuts through the district. A large population of the people are living next to the highway and have easy access to the readily government services at Chuave government station. An even larger population is in the interior, where there is relatively good land for crop cultivation. Good road infrastructure is what has been lacking over the years. The people rely on coffee farming and gardening for an income. The district is now planning to develop an economy that centers around human resource development and agriculture. On Friday last week, Wera Mori, the Chuave MP, announced the district's plan to support the agriculture sector through the SME.
The approach we take is to directly empower our people by providing seed capital. Last year we rolled out close to 1 million kina and we had 65% success.
He is also asking for a rural-based focus where priority is given to the bulk of the population living in the remote interior with limited road access.
I come from a very rural electorate, and it's very difficult for, if I put money into the bank and ask people to go and borrow, definitely they'll be out of the equation.
The Treasury Minister, Patrick Pruich, who accompanied the Chuave MP, has announced the national government's intention to support small businesses in the country.
The biggest challenge for us as a country is working together, getting the public service machinery to align themselves with the political leadership.
In recent years, much of the attention has been given to the non-renewable sector, such as the LNG in the Hela province. The Treasurer says equal focus will also be given to the renewable sector to support the non-mineral rich areas of the country, so that when the PNG economy grows, they too grow with it.
The Pacific Plains Economic Zone is set to kick off after intense negotiations between the government and foreign investors. A number of different foreign investors have expressed keen interest to enter into a joint venture with the national government to develop oil palm and other crops in the Pacific Plains. Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry Richard Maru said the Independent Public Business Corporation, or IPBC, holds the state shares.
We shouldn't lie to people.
At a recent media conference, Minister for Trade, Commerce and Industry and member for Yanguru Sausia, Richard Maru, said feasibility studies are progressing well. He expects that heads of agreements and physical work on the new economic projects in the economic zone will commence this year.
I'm very thankful to the PM and to Cabinet for their support. This year we are very definite we are going to have investors on the ground and we'll start to see the projects going. And our people have been waiting for that. Our province has been waiting for that. This country has been waiting for that. And
I think we are very, very close. We're reaching a very exciting phase in major negotiations.
The minister also confirmed that negotiations with Wilmar International Limited has stopped because the government cannot agree to the concessions the previous contractor, Wilmar International, was seeking. The IPBC holds the state's shares through the CIPIC Agro Industries Limited, which will hold shares in any joint venture investment in the CIPIC Plains. The state will be taking up 30% in each project. In the meantime, Yanguru Sausia district has begun preparing for the economic zone and its impacts, building roads and investing in electricity and law and order.
We're quite excited about some of the investors that are coming. They are world-class investors with world-class technology and expertise and know-how and capital. So we are really looking forward to some very big projects taking off in the ECP, which has been dead all these years and finally will come to life.
While the government is developing the CIPIC economic zone, it is also in the early stages of developing similar agriculture-based special economic zones in the Baya River, Gulf Province and Western provinces.
And that's all we have for you tonight. For more business news, if you would simply like to view this episode again, visit MTV online at www.mtv.com.pg/business, or to join the conversation, like our page on Facebook for daily business news, or follow us on Twitter at Business PNG using the hashtag Business PNG. Until next week, have a pleasant evening. I'm Leanne Jarari, and this is Business PNG.